Part 4. Toxic Tour of Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay, Sunday, May 4, 2025.
It's a perfect day to be out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were lucky. I've been up here other times when the fog was coming in, when it was just almost dark. This was the perfect day.
It just, I think 2 or 3 days ago, it would have been a different experience.
Yes, it's been really.
So,
Even up in Sonoma, it's been overcast and brutal.
All right, that's Clipper Cove down there. Did you know that? Did I say that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's called Clipper Cove, and it's been called Clipper Cove since the Golden Gate
So
International.
I turn left, right?
Left, yeah. It's been called Clipper Cove since the Golden Gate International Exposition because that's when they had the China Clippers. Clipper Cove is named for Pan American Airways flying boats. From 1938 to 1945, Pan American Airways China Clippers landed in Clipper Cove at Treasure Island, then headed east across the Pacific to Hong Kong. The Golden Gate International Exposition showcased the goods of nations bordering the Pacific Ocean, one of which was China. A Pan American Airways flying boat called a China Clipper, landing in Clipper Cove around 1939 during the Golden Gate International Exposition on its way to Hong Kong, China. Yerba Buena Island can be seen in the background. This is McCalla Road, and look at how steep it is. For anybody
that
who's
person's walking.
living up here, they take a van. They don't ride a bike.
No, it's too challenging.
Really steep. By the way, this island used to be called Goat Island because they had goats up here.
Wow.
And it also was not connected to San Francisco, and people who lived up here used to swim across the bay to get to San Francisco.
Wow.
They had, yeah, really, seriously.
They would swim?
Yeah, I have a history of Yerba Buena Island, and that's true. Okay, you're looking at building 1, right there in the front, semicircular building. Behind it is Isle House. And behind that, you see that little low building with the peaked roof? That's the Nimitz Chapel, and that was named after Chester W. Nimitz, who lived at the top. That's Nimitz House up there.
Am I going straight ahead or turning right?
Go straight ahead. Okay, that's building 2 right there with building 3 behind it. Go straight ahead. To the left is a ferry. You can ferry across to the ferry building on the other side. On the right is building 1. They're having some kind of event there.
It's like a flea market.
Most of crafted gins and whiskeys. It's not a farmer's market, according to that sign.
I told you that was a rotunda and it was empty, and they've started to monetize it and put little stores in there. And one of them is the Gold Bar, where you can go and get drinks. I've been there. And that is the ferry, entrance to the ferry.
It's fairly new.
Oh, it's completely new, yeah. I was walking around here when they were building that ferry. Now, that building is the Nimitz Chapel. I've been in there many times, and it is a historical landmark because it was named for Chester V. Nimitz. He had a rose garden behind there. Make a right turn. Notice the sign that says Trade Winds Avenue. Trade Winds Avenue is a new street that they've renamed. They're going to change all the streets and make them different, and this is a completely new street. When I was out here, I could walk next to building 1 right there. I could enter it from the back, no more. This was called California Avenue, and it went straight ahead. Old California Avenue went straight ahead to the Oakland side. Make a left turn on 7 Seas Avenue. That's building 2. Remember building 2 where they had the clipper ships? That's it right there.
I think that we're using that as a sound stage because I
Yeah.
think
Building one.
IOTC worked out.
Yeah.
This is Job Corps. That's where they had the culinary school. I believe this is Hawkins right here
Yeah.
on Bruton Street. That building with the weird red around the windows, that's the storage to plowshares, low-cost, affordable veterans building. And I have a little story I'll tell you about that later. This is also Job Corps. Job Corps has enormous big grounds. It's federal land, so they can't do anything to it. And right over here, that building is Starview Court. Remember I told you it was built over the Starburst Barracks?
Yeah.
If those people walk out of there and scuff up the dirt, they're going to walk through radioactive material. So Starview Court is radioactive. And I have friends who are living in it right now. I've been there recently. The address is Johnson
Are they
Street.
subsidized?
Yes, they are. Ahead of us is 9th Street, the community that you've seen on Treasure Island. Remember where they burned the trash?
Yeah.
That's the place right there. Now, make a right turn here on 9th Street. This is the division between the unsafe side of the island, the community, Site 12, and the supposedly safe side of the island, which is on that side, that the Navy inhabited for years. We are currently driving from the bottom of the map to the top along 9th Street, that thick black line. 9th Street divides the more contaminated half of the island on the left from the less contaminated half of the island on the right. Or so the Navy thought. In reality, the two halves are equally contaminated. Now, you were asking about that big pile of stuff?
Yeah.
That's it.
What is it?
And it's a soil pile. It's the dirt they're using to build the high-rise. It's got vegetation growing on it. And that's been out here for a long time. Make a right turn. This is Avenue H. We have turned the corner onto Avenue H facing east toward Clipper Cove. Keep the soil in place. Plastic things, but it doesn't the high wind. So behind us on that side is a school. The colorful building was a school. It's a high school, and kids live out here in that school, and it's for poor people, poor black people. This is the old Navy post office over here. This building surrounded by a green tarped fence. In 2015, I and the person who shot this photo of me walked to the top of the soil pile. We got onto the soil pile right here. We were able to gain access to a road and walk to the top. We wanted to get high enough to take photos of the community. I took this photo looking over Treasure Island townhouses toward Angel Island in San Francisco Bay. While I was shooting these photos, they spotted us on the security cameras, and they locked us in. So we called a resident who came and cut the padlock with pliers and sprung us. That was exciting. I had fun doing that. That is the Job Corps Administration Building right there. And they can't move it because it's federal land. Here, they got another soil pile there, but make a left turn. This should be 4th Street. Wait, can you stop for a minute?
What's this building?
This building has been here since 2014. They had a fire in it, and they left it there. There is a secret about this building that nobody has told. Because that building is still there. And it was there in 2014. And they had workers down at the bottom. I walked past them. I said, what is this building? They were doing some sort of woodworking down there. And they told me about the fire. They told me about this. There's some kind of radioactive or toxic secret about that building because they have left it there. Make a left turn here. Now we're going to go to one of the most important corners on the island. This should be 4th Street. Did you see a sign?
Did they bring in all this dirt, or was it excavated?
Good question. They've brought it from a lot of different places, and they claim that it's clean. And, you know, we have no telling whether this dirt is clean or not. But it's brought in from many places. Remember when they were building that freeway out on, I keep forgetting the name, where they have the big tunnels that you go through? Yeah. They took all that dirt, a lot of that dirt, and brought it out here from when they built that freeway. Okay, yes. Okay, now I'd like you to stop, okay? I'd like you to completely stop, because this corner is in the article that I wrote. Okay, so on that corner where all of those chunked up pieces of dirt are in that hill, used to be a building called Building 233.
Well, here I have that here, yes.
Yeah.
Radiation spill.
Building 233. In 1950, the worst radiation spill on the island happened there. And the story, which is written by the Navy actually, in their documentation, they were training sailors how to handle radiation. So they had this radiation lab there, and they had radiation in test tubes. And oops, somebody dropped the test tube on the floor. The form of radiation in the test tube was salts. And it got dropped on the floor, nobody knew about it, and they tracked it all around. Some of them lived in the front. This was a parking place for cars here. They dragged it out to their cars on their feet, and they drove it across to San Francisco over the bridge. So there's a trail of radiation coming out of this building. Some of these people also lived in the old barracks in front of those Starburst barracks that I told you about. So they dragged the radiation to the old barracks. And that's why, remember the I told you about the Great Lawn?
Yeah.
That is what made the Great Lawn radioactive. Partly is what made the Great Lawn radioactive. The other part that made it radioactive was they dragged the radiation back from the Pandemonium. Okay, so that building was there. It was a building to train sailors how to handle radiation. Now, what's important is on this side of the street, we are now at the corner. This is Avenue M and 4th Street. Okay, Avenue M is where I told you that they ran that radiation down the sink. And it went into the pipes. There is a pipeline under Avenue M that bisects the island. It goes across the entire island. And we're going to go to the other end of it today. And if you got out and walked there, you would see that there's a convex part all the way down Avenue M because they're constantly digging in it, because the pipes are old. And they're replacing pieces of pipe. So what has happened with Avenue M is that radiation has gone into that pipeline, not only from Building 3 that's over there, over behind us, where they had the night vision glass shop with the strontium 90. But then there are all these other facilities along Avenue M where they were teaching sailors how to handle radiation. And that was one of them right there. And this 1950 is a major point on the timetable of Treasure Island because this radiation there was so much of it spilled that they had armed guards around the area. to keep people out. And they took like something like 200 barrels full of radioactive material and put it on a ship that was parked right in Clipper Cove called the USS Independence. And they took the ship out to Monterey and sunk the ship with the barrels on them. And a few years ago, NOAA did some deep dives, and on sonar they found the ship, they found the barrels, and the thing was still radioactive at the bottom of the ocean. And that spill ended up down in Monterey. Yes.
Isn't there a similar situation in the Farallones?
It's south of the Farallones. They keep saying it's the Farallones,
It's not the
but it's not. This National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration NOAA map shows the shipwreck and barrels at the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary south of the Farallones. When I was out here in 2014, that was an empty lot, and it had radiation signs all around it on a fence. It was a fenced-off lot, and I have footage of that. I can show that to you. And so the upshot of this is, the important part of this is, that land is still radioactive.
That's why they put all these containers here. I would imagine that's why there's such this wall that's been constructed.
Maybe it's a metal fence, and the going theory is that you can keep radioisotopes out of things with metal. There's a kind of radioisotope that can penetrate metal. So, you know, depending on the kind of radioisotope that they spilled, that radiation is still there. It has half-lives of thousands of years, and it's still in play. It's still active, radioactive. Go on to part 5.